everybody. We're running a few minutes late, so I thank you for sticking with us. We're back for episode 2 with a wonderful, wonderful panel. I think that you guys are going to get so much value out of this, some true mindset masters, and we'll be here for the next. We have 2 parts. The first hour are Corey, Conrad, and Edison, and you're going to see their links to X where you can get in touch with them if you like what they have to say. I picked them because they have a really, really great set of content on the X platform, and so check them out. If you have questions, then I'm going to bring those questions on board. All you got to do is drop those in the chat. I'll scoot them over here, and our panel is going to answer your questions. And then we're going to have part 2. And we may wind up having a full 6 of us on board, depending on who can stay and who can't. And so let's get right to it, guys. It is such a privilege having you guys here today. Thank you so much. It's Corey on X, Conrad at More Life Wizard, and Edison at Edison Udom. And of course, hey, it's me with my cinnamon apple cider vinegar. Hope you guys have something great to drink. And we're going to be here having a nice chat. Hey, Conrad's got something. Conrad needs some octane for his internet connection, so we were glitching earlier. And Edison's from all the way across the world, and I think Corey is right next door. So
yep.
It's good to see you guys. But let's go around the room here a little bit, starting with Corey. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started on this journey through social media.
Well, I've made a living off of social media or the internet for about the past 10 years, minus a small gap there a few years ago where I bought a convenience store, put all my time into brick and mortar. I just jumped back on X in May, and man, it's just been an incredible experience building a community of amazing people and just meeting so many encouraging, supporting people. It has been great. I've spent a lot of time sharing some of my struggles. When I was 25 years old, I had several strokes, had to learn to walk again. A year later, I'm battling depression and suicidal thoughts. And really, that's the point in my life where I turned everything around and took control of my life and focused my life on gratitude and healthy habits and mindsets. And really just that's what led me here today, 17 years later. So,
man, you beat me to the punch. I was going to ask about, what you post about and your personal journey, but man, that is so impressive. Never let anything get you down. What really kind of, I want to ask you in a minute, Corey, what really kind of kept you going? Because a lot of people would go through what you went through and they would just stop. I mean, I'm done, put me to bed somewhere, but I would have never guessed that. But let's go to Conrad. Conrad, tell us a bit about what you talk about on social media and a bit about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you, friends. It's again a different journey here. I've been largely living offline for the first 40 years of my life. And that social media journey, it's actually quite a new thing for me here. Only the last 4 years, let's say plus, I've ventured into that territory. And this is both a blessing and a blessing. This has made me so aware about how much can be had through social media and the content, and at the same time, how much I love my offline life. Cherishing those moments, making the best out of those, in-person conversations, living life offline largely, whilst at the same time having this capacity to connect with other people online, with great joy and gratitude for everything that is available these days through software and otherwise. And the mindset game also for me has been, on the agenda for decades. It's one of those things that I felt very passionate about very early on. Even as a kid, other kids would come to me for advice and otherwise, for some guidance, for some shoulder to cry on, and so on and so forth. And then at some point, I've decided that perhaps it's time to actually make it into a career. If I'm doing it anyway, no matter where I go, no matter what I work as, people still come to me and they're getting something from those conversations. Whether it was my colleagues, my bosses, random people, visitors to the stores where I worked at, and so on and so forth, people wanted to connect. And this is where I would like to inspire everybody already, right? If there is something that you seem to be doing so naturally, then perhaps it's time to align with this. Perhaps it's time to drop off those mind-based options, how we think we should be, how we think we must succeed in a very specific way, and just lean back into that which is very natural to us. Because we all have it. With enough detachment, we really can zoom out enough and distill that which is oh so natural for us.
Wow.
And on that note, I'm passing the mic over to you.
Thank you, Conrad. See, this is why I had these guys on here. You guys are just like a wheelbarrow full of wisdom. And Edgar put in the chat there, you guys be sure and put your questions and comments in the chat. Nothing helps more than hearing how others' mindsets were transformed to help you realize how it's possible for you. And I think that's one of the biggest things that you guys show the world is what's possible. You really can't tackle anything that you don't believe is possible. As soon as you think it's impossible, you're guaranteed not to achieve it. Let's hop over to my friend Edison. I just met this fabulous young man recently. But Edison, tell us a little bit about your journey on social media and how you tackle problems in your life. And by the way, Edison's on a cell phone because his laptop was just stolen. I don't mean to share. Maybe it's not too personal, but I love it that Edison, man, he just keeps on going. Keeps on going. And a young guy like Edison, I think he may be the youngest one in the room. We're all old men. But man, that's the kind of thing that is required to get you through life. Tell us a bit about yourself, Edison.
All right, so yeah, quickly I got into social media 15 years ago. Before now, I've been a drummer, and it's been an amazing journey, being a drummer and able to um, post what you have on social media. You're able to post content, social media content, and on social media rather. And I stopped when I had hearing loss. I had this mouth hearing loss, and I stopped drumming fully. And since then, the funny thing is that I have been able to, look beyond my struggles. I've been able to look beyond my challenges, and being able to navigate through. I'm still in the music industry, but I didn't actually allow this the whole hearing loss thing to affect me, because I've seen a lot of people in the music industry. Once they start developing some levels of hearing loss, they are completely off work, and some of them retire home. But I just came up with an innovation which I would later share with everyone. And this I developed this positive mindset that I actually still do this even with my condition, and that's what has kept me going over time.
Edison, how inspirational. There was this guy who became a little bit famous. A lot of you know his works, but he was pretty nearly deaf, and he still made works that far outlasted him. And gosh, I think that's been several hundred years ago. His name happened to be Beethoven. And so he did get sidetracked by physical disability. Man, he just kept on going. So Edison's like the Beethoven of drummers. So keep on going. What's one of the hardest things? I'm not a drummer, of course. I like to beat on things as a kid, but no one ever wanted to turn that into music. But what's the hardest thing about being a drummer, Edison?
Well, the hardest thing being a drummer is personally it's your health, because yeah, lots of musicians, yeah, especially the drummers, you get so carried away with the entire music thing. You are touring and all of that, and you don't really have time to pay attention to your health. If you do some research, you'd realize that most musicians actually go to the clinic when whatever condition they are suffering from, when it gets worse. And as a drummer, one of the struggles is hearing. One of the struggles is hearing, because the whole noise, the whole cymbals, the whole sound, everything comes to your ears, and it's like a struggle to lots of drummers. It happens to most musicians, but especially for drummers, that's like the major challenge.
I did not know that. Wow, that is fascinating. Guys, let's dig into my first thing I want to talk about, just about breaking the myth overall. And I'm going to blend these together. Why just thinking positively doesn't really work. I hear people say, just be positive, just think positive. And personally, I don't think that really changes the physics of life. I think that there's some technique there. But so there's no overnight success of just thinking positively. What are your thoughts on that? Corey, what do you think? What about recovering from the strokes? What was, I doubt that was overnight success, recovering from the strokes. I would imagine it's a lot of, well, as the good book says, weeping, wailing, and gnashing of teeth, not just thinking positively.
Yeah, absolutely. There is something for positive thinking, though. Creating a habit of thinking positively about a situation will absolutely accomplish a lot more than thinking negatively will. It probably helps push you through things, when things look bleak and are hard. But absolutely, it's about creating a habit of returning to this positivity and understanding, kind of a detaching from everything, and understanding, like, despite what everything looks like right now, like, this is where I need to go, and I'm just going to continue to go forward no matter what the details are. And that mindset probably has carried me a lot of ways. And then you have to support that mindset, because with some habits, because the mindset alone is not really going to do a whole lot for you. You have to create habits, activities that will solidify that mindset for you and actually make it useful.
Yeah, tell us, if you don't care to share, get as personal as you like, but I'm kind of wondering what might have been some very simple things that you lost the ability to do early on, right after your stroke.
So I had multiple strokes over the course of a couple of weeks while in the hospital. Nearly died. By the time I left, I was diagnosed with Wallenberg syndrome. So essentially, I had to learn to balance again. So I say I had to learn to walk again, but it wasn't really the function of walking, it was the balancing, and then I couldn't tell hot and cold on my left side, and I'm left-handed. So, like, I would, it's very frustrating. I would, like, say, taking a shower, I'd turn the water on, reach my left hand in there to feel the water. It would feel room temperature. I'd step in and I'd scald myself, things like that. And it was very frustrating at first. I remember, really getting emotional about those things over the course of the first year after all of that. While I struggled to heal, I found myself in a deep depression kind of simultaneously. And so that first year afterwards, it was really a struggle between, adapting, overcoming, and just being okay with things as they were, kind of all together. But yeah, it was, it's all about consistency and moving towards a certain thing, though. There was quite a path to follow, and a lot of things that I had to change in my thinking. But yeah,
What? Let me ask you
essentially,
a
I mean, we
question
all have our
about
strengths.
the. Let me ask a question about what you just said about being okay with the way things are. What did that mean to you during those struggles?
Well, when I finally got a hold of everything and I started overcoming things, instead of, I tell you what, a year after my strokes, I was literally exactly to a year after my strokes, I went out in the woods to hang myself. I was in that deep of a depression, and it was at that point when I really turned things around and really started healing. And one of the things that I had to understand is, like, things weren't going to get okay overnight. So I had to be okay with the things that way, things are this way right now. And I'm going to do what I can to move forward and to change that. But I had to be, instead of being frustrated at everything and having a list of symptoms and problems and ailments that I could recite to everybody so they could share in my trouble and my, trauma. Like I had to change my thinking, like this is the way things are right now. I'm headed this way though. And I'm not going to be frustrated where I am right now. I'm just going to keep looking down the road, because that frustration would have just stopped me. It stopped me for a year from being, better. So
Set you back a year. Wow. Wow. In my field, we call that catastrophizing, thinking that,
yeah,
yeah, catastrophizing. And an old cranky, and he was fairly snarky, cranky guy, Albert Ellis would call it awfulizing. So I found that whatever you focus on, you guys, anybody, tell me what you think about this. I found in my work that the more you focus on something in the brain gets better at focusing on that. And so if I focus on, like Corey said, this checklist of ailments, I'm actually going to get sidetracked by that list of ailments. And then I just become a series of ailments. One of my favorite movies was Awakenings with Robin Williams and Robert De Niro. By the way, that's based on some real people. Oliver Sacks, Robin Williams played Oliver Sacks, and Robert De Niro was probably a collection of patients, but maybe one in particular. But he said about his tics, he said, sometimes I'm just a collection of tics and spasms. And I find that in my field that people, they just get hyper focused on some labels, some set of symptoms and criteria for a certain diagnosis, and then that's all they become. They're just a collection of symptoms. And so, Corey, it sounds like you started focusing, not to get too philosophical, but on just your humanity, your human experience about things that were most meaningful. Could you pick out maybe one or two things during that time that were the most meaningful for you?
well, so right before I got to the lowest point there, I could recite my ailments like a song, like my favorite song. I could sing it and make it just sound miserable. But so one of the things that when I changed things and turned things around, one of the things that I knew that I had to do was focus on what was good. And so in order to do that, probably the most important thing that I did, and I still do today, is I wake up and write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. And I use the power of language every morning. I write down, today I am grateful for, and list a thing. Today I am grateful for. And I do that 3 times. And it literally has trained my mind to focus on what's good, even in the most terrible situations. And over, 17 years of doing that, it's probably made me pretty stoic to where even in a tragic situation, I never have a bad day. I don't waste my time having a bad day. Like even in the most tragic situation, I know it's only a moment, and I'm able to detach myself, zoom out, and look at the bigger picture, and be grateful for certain things that that will empower me. Like my thinking, I use my thinking to empower me, and that was probably one of the most tremendous habits that I picked up, though.
I was about to type into the chat, and don't sacrifice your future for the present moment or any present moment. Don't sacrifice your future for any present moment. Dan, our good friend Dan, is saying, what a phenomenal panel. I completely agree. I see Dan on X all the time. You guys check out Dan. And our good buddy Matthias Bruckner. I'm probably not saying that right. It may be Bruckner. I've never asked him how to pronounce that, but just want to thank for bringing out that catastrophizing thing. So thanks, Corey. And that was my word. And I love how Corey described that so perfectly. But let's go over to Conrad and talk about, let's kind of bust that myth of overnight success, because Conrad, you're, no offense, you're a good-looking guy, but you're no spring chicken. You've been around for a while, and so I don't think that you found overnight success. How do we get people out of this myth of thinking there's some overnight success in life?
Well, it's a great question to start with. I would say that it's very much about finding one's inner truth, so to speak. right? Over time, those things happen for us, through us, by us. And as you might know, I'm very passionate about the fact that we are pre-sending our future. Those present moments that we experience daily are actually pre-sent. That's why we call them present. And depending on the everyday decisions that we make, we actually experience a certain present reality. And in a way, it's like an accumulation, daily accumulation of successful habits, successful thinking, successful choices, successful feelings that carries on presenting that success until it becomes physicalized, until we truly start to experience those physicalized moments, whatever they might mean for us, of that which we might call success. And one might want to think that it's just as easy as, creating an account on a given platform or starting a band, or getting a new job, and suddenly one becomes overnight success. However, experience shows perhaps that it's success in the making. It really is. Throughout our childhood, the teenage years, and later on, those things just build us up, so to speak. We learn what works for us as a person and what doesn't. And then we make those better choices, let's call them, more often than not, because we know what is important for us as a person. And again, life shows that it's so unique down to a person what actually is important and why. You might have heard me also talking about how, we all carry our own dictionary of every single word. Yeah. And when you ask people what success means for them, every single person on the planet will give you a different answer. Every single one. And surprisingly, nobody will give you a dictionary definition. Mm-hmm. And here is, right, where we might be less successful if we chase dreams of other people. If we try to live by other people's standards and definitions of success. Because this is where we enter the shaky ground. When we try to be like somebody else. Maybe it's our parents' definition of success that we are chasing. Maybe it's grander family. Maybe it's somebody else's. Maybe an online guru or otherwise. It nearly doesn't matter who it is, but if it's not us, then what kind of a success it is in the end? And it's authenticity that wins the day. It just seems that, when we actually step into that authentic, natural self-expression, this is where we find that success that we've been after all along. And surprisingly, very often, whether you use, some kind of autosuggestion, hypnotherapy, or otherwise, once you assess those subconscious associations that success has hardwired within you, this is when you might realize that, okay, maybe, for example, I've discovered for myself that for me, success meant unavailability for people that I love. Because my parents were successful and they were working hard and they were at times unavailable. So a part of that conditioning of success for me was the unconscious connection between being successful and being unavailable for loved ones. So no wonder, right, that things weren't quite aligning in my favor at times, because on some deeper level, I didn't want to be a person who is unavailable for others. But only when I finally made that connection, only when I realized, okay, well, if success for whatever reason means that as a partner or, friend, I am unavailable to other people, then do I really want to be successful in the first place? And then by changing that mindset, upgrading that line of thinking, success became available and wanted, desired, manifested in a fuller capacity. But until then, yes, intellectually, obviously we want to be successful. However, it's what's within that actually is that subconscious software that runs the show. And here, that self-assessment is crucial, because it might be that even before, right, we were 8 years old, our role models have shown us what success is and what it is not. And if we are not careful, we might be associating, for example, success or health or joy or peace with something that is not desirable. And then making those lesser choices in life because we don't want to be successful or healthy or joyful or peaceful, because for us, those qualities actually uniquely are hardwired with something that is undesirable. But once we get that connection, there are so many ways to reprogram ourselves, let's say, rewire ourselves. And this is where we truly begin to get traction in life. Because suddenly that success is something worth achieving, or health is something worth achieving, or joy, or peace is something worth achieving. And this is where the whole situation turns in our favor. Over to you, Dr. Heath.
That's amazing. I really love how you put that. Conrad and I were DMing each other in advance of the show, and he put that, and it was one of those things that make you want to go, I thought, wow, that is just genius, that your future is present, and this is why we call it the present. It is present. And so I don't think that a lot of people realize how they are sabotaging their future by how they decide to exist in every present moment. And just to kind of segue to myth number 2, myth number 1, the overnight success mentality. Myth number 2, that you need a perfect plan before starting. And I have found on everything that I do, the pieces never fit together before I do it, before I walk it, before I build it. It's really, life is almost like somebody hands you a dozen jigsaw puzzles, all dumped into one, onto one table, the table of life, and you have to sort them and just kind of, put them together. We had a guest, Sai and Saya, a great guest on my Executive Espresso, which I do every Friday, reminded me that life is really not about having an airplane before you go over the cliff. Life is about building the airplane on the way down, and and so he said the great thing is you get a second chance and a third chance, mentally, because you hit the bottom before you had your airplane built, but then you climb back up the cliff, jump off again, and the second time you hit the bottom, but you've done a better job building the airplane. And then the third time, and maybe not the third time, the fourth and the fifth time, eventually you wind up getting the darn thing built before you hit the ground. And this is where, I think whether you're an Elon Musk fan or not, I think he's a fascinating individual, that he learns by blowing things up. He learns by blowing things up, And I love the quote. I hope they got all the garbage cleaned up from that last explosion. But he said something like, "Success is optional. Entertainment is guaranteed." And that's where I go back to Corey, where when you start finding value in when things blow up and you fall over and you lose your balance and things like that, then you're well on your way to that future that Conrad is talking about. A quick story before we go on, and we will talk about that. You don't need a perfect plan before you begin, and then how to reframe self doubt. Because I think all of us guys, yes, everybody here has experienced, if not come close to drowning mentally in self doubt. But I had a dear friend of mine, David, who he ran, operated a medical facility, and they redesigned the laundry room, which doesn't sound like a big deal except for it cost, $250,000 or whatever. It was perfect. Beautiful, beautiful remodel. It's time to get the equipment in. The equipment shows up. They get it through the front door. They take it down the hallway. It won't fit through the door of the newly remodeled laundry room. He went and sat down on the sidewalk. He said he looked like Barney Fife, if you've ever seen the Andy Griffith show, where he just puts his hands in his hair and pulls it. He looks like a little troll demon or something, his hair sticking out. But he said, I just laughed like a maniac. I just laughed like a maniac. Well, guys, talk to us about you don't need a perfect plan before starting. Let's go to Edison since he's back with us. Edison, do you have an experience where, man, you just jumped in? You didn't wait to have a perfect plan, man. You just jumped in and got going.
Okay. Yes. I'm going to use a present project I'm working on, to build on this conversation. You don't need a perfect plan, to get something done. Okay, so I am a co-founder of a project, and it's called Web3 University. Now, guess what happened? So we just, saw the need of onboarding younger people into Web3. What we basically did was word of mouth education, one-on-one education on the basics of cryptocurrency. And sincerely, we never had a plan of starting a full-blown institution, a full-blown Web3 institution, until we started building. We had our first class. We've had like about 7 classes. Like we never had the plan of starting a full-blown university until after we did the basic class. What we did is segment the classes from basic, intermediate, and advanced. And sincerely, we never had a plan, but we just felt like, okay, let's start something. Let's just start building whatever is going to, come up in the process of building. We are going to see. And what we did is that we ensured we, stayed open-minded to whatever suggestions that came from people, whatever research we saw on the internet and from other resources. So we just started building. We never had a plan. We just started building, make sure that every single day we work towards attaining some level of success. And fortunately for us, after a while, it's becoming like we are seeing the bigger picture. Like, okay, so this is what we've been working on before now. And sincerely, I felt a plan to just, okay, this is the plan. We are building Web3 University. If we had waited for that plan, sometimes you work on something and you lose that vibe, that energy of building. But then when the idea started, we just didn't think of what is going to be the next step. The next step, we just started moving. We just put everything in plan, and this is where we are today. It has become like a big one for us. And yeah, that's one of the importance of not having to wait till the plan is fully developed, till the idea is fully developed. You just keep moving every day, ensure that you are making progress, and then you are also taking note of your wins in and your losses. So that is what I feel. You don't have to wait till the plan is fully developed. Just start, but ensure that you are taking note of the losses, taking note of the successes. I think that's what works.
I love that. I love that. And Dan puts up sometimes survival transforms into sure thrival or thriving, sure thriving. I love Dan's wordplay there. Sometimes survival transforms into sure thrival. I love that. That's fantastic. So, yeah, I think it's a bit like Groundhog Day. You know, you may not get it right the first time, the second time, the 52nd time, but you keep iterating and you try to make one less mistake today, just one, than you did yesterday. And just one less mistake or one less misstep today than you did yesterday. Imagine you guys that are here having relationship struggles. Do you not learn from those relationship struggles? I can tell you a lot of people don't, but that's because they're not paying attention. If something didn't work today in that relationship, then instead of continuing to repeat it, then iterate one less mistake in my relationship, one less mistake in my building a business, one less mistake in parenting. Parenting is an iterative, a growing, changing, challenging process. You're not going to pop from the box as a parent getting it all right, but learn from yesterday and apply that to today. So moving on into, we've got about 14 minutes until our other panelists come on. I'm hoping some of our panelists can stay here. I've got a big screen ready for us to go. If you can understand, you guys put some questions and thoughts in the chat. But self-doubt, myth number 3, self-doubt is always a sign of weakness. But I would disagree with that. I view self-doubt as a sabotaging thought I have about myself, a inaccurate, unrealistic thought. And I just need to replace that inaccurate, unrealistic thought. And in doing that, in that replacement of that programming, I have empowered my mindset and my life with more healthy programming. Corey, I'm sure you had a lot of that going on recovering from the strokes. Give us some examples if you have a few.
Yeah, man. It kind of piggybacks off of the last topic. I think it was Zig Ziglar, but I could be quoting the wrong person, who talked about, sometimes the way to establish your plan or to work through your plan is kind of like driving at night. Your headlights only reach so far, and by moving forward, you're able to see further down the road. And I think self-doubt is tackled much the same way. So when you're doubting yourself, or you have self-doubt or a lack of confidence, confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself. Self-doubt can get washed away by taking action, right? So you might doubt yourself, but if you're going to go ahead and take action, imperfect action, but action still, like as you go on, that self-doubt will start to vanish. It'll start to evaporate because you're still doing the things that you need to. Activity changes so much about our thinking. Just it's okay to have maybe these self-doubts, but pursue anyways, because that is emotion, the word emotion, we're playing on words, like that's emotion comes from motion. We can raise your testosterone level by putting a smile on your face, putting your hands on your hips, and taking a strong stance. Like, chemicals are released in your mind by smiling in the mirror for 2 minutes. Like, there's so many things that we can do to change our emotions. So self-doubt might be a thing that you're having to deal with, but taking action against that doubt is the thing that's going to overcome that doubt. It's not that people, like, it would be ridiculous to think that any one of us here don't have self-doubt every day that we contend with. It's just that we take action and we learn to trust ourselves more and more and more the more that we do it.
It really is true, because I have that every single day, but I view in this day and age, most of the time, sometimes, or most of the time, I view self-doubt as the mouse in the corner. And the mouse in the corner is squeak, 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 saying things. Sometimes I mistake the mouse for a big gorilla. I've never seen any gorilla-sized mice, and so I remind myself it's just the mouse in the corner. And so I also like to view self-doubt as a hypothesis. Or C.S. Lewis, author of Chronicles of Narnia, one of my favorite theologians, a supposal. And so the brain makes hypotheses like blizzards. It's right now something like 31 degrees outside. We're supposed to get a few snowflakes. But the brain creates hypotheses, thoughts, the way blizzards create snowflakes. The problem is not that. The problem is not the inaccurate thoughts that we label as self-doubt. It's the value that we assign to this one that is inaccurate.
That's it.
Versus this one that is more accurate. And for some of you that are new to who I am, Dr. Heath here, I like to say that there's an art of life, and the art of life is accurate, realistic thinking, ART. The art of life is accurate, realistic thinking. Dan, the man, tell me what you think about that. Dan, he had a great thing earlier. You guys go back and replay it. But I want to kind of segue on what we talked about to Conrad, because Conrad is our resident metaphysical philosopher, I like to say, you know, more life wizard there. So how do we recommend to ourselves first? Because you really can't teach anybody anything unless you come to understand it yourself and practice it yourself. You know, I don't know if you guys have noticed, there's a lot of hypocrisy on social media, you know, and no offense to me, it's like a, you know, obese person trying to teach everybody else how to get in shape or whatever, unless you've been there, you know. But how do we practice our own subconscious programming and recognize some of those hidden mental barriers, Conrad?
Awesome. Beautiful question. Well, from my experience, it shows that depending on who you are as a person, my friend who might be listening at this time, we are all so super specific. Okay, we all are fully equipped to be completely and fully successful in this lifetime. There is going to be something that will work very well, and there will be things that might not be working also well. And it's important to remember that sometimes copy-pasting other people's techniques, even though those other people might have been successful with them, it might not be guaranteeing our own success. It was a technique that worked for another person. But what might be happening when people copy-paste technique of a guru, right, or an accomplished coach or somebody else, and it doesn't work, that might dent somebody's confidence. Because supposedly, that technique should be working, right? That person who supposedly achieved more than me has done so by using that technique. However, for me, it doesn't seem to be working. There must be something wrong with me, right? But that doesn't seem to be the case. Life shows that we are all born to be successful. It's just when we try to copy-paste, especially just literally verbatim, when we try to copy-paste other people, this is where we might get into difficulty. However, we all have things that will work, and life shows that especially when we want to. When we are willingly looking for solutions, we will start finding them. Our own subconsciousness will start steering us towards those choices that lead to an overall success in one area of life, and then another, and so on and so forth. Because from a certain perspective, that success is holographic. Once we have our own blueprint of success, then we literally start making those decisions holographically better in every area of life. And how cool is that?
Oh, wow.
So from a certain perspective, right, the real work is in distilling that blueprint for ourselves. What is it that works for me as a person? What is it that works for you, my friend, as a person, uniquely down to you, your upbringing, your education, your vocabulary, and so on and so forth, because there's going to be something that will work very well. And I mean like very well, in capital letters. And we are not talking here about hoping to get 2% better, this year. I'm talking here about real success in capital letters. You have that blueprint, my friends. It might not be the same as the blueprint of other people, but you do have it. And if only you allow yourself, if you really allow yourself to reach that point where you actually start to deduct, okay, that's not working, that's not working, that's not working, that's not working, you're going to be left with your own original blueprint of success. Because it is there. You were born to be successful. It's just the way it is. So, I would say also that there are things that can be utilized. And to piggyback on that topic of self-doubt. Self-doubt for me is that energy of not ready. Right? When we experience self-doubt, there is this, oh, am I ready for it? But am I really ready for it? And for me, this is an invitation to ask those why questions. If I don't feel ready, then why? Why am I doubting it? Or why am I doubting myself? Rather than giving in to that feeling, state, emotion, I'm asking proactive questions. Why? Why do I feel not ready? And then we carry on using this famous exercise of asking the why question several times, at least 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 times. Why, and then an answer, and then a why, and then an answer, and then a why, and then an answer, and then a why to the previous answer. And sooner or later, experience shows that we get to our personal truth. This is where we strip away those mind stories, what I call mind stories, that we tell ourselves. The easy exits, right? The excuses, the ready stories that our mind made for ourselves to keep ourselves safe, obviously, and cozy and comfortable. However, underneath all that, after enough why questions, is our truth. It usually comes underneath that layer of discomfort. There's going to be another why question that you will ask yourself in that sequence, and you will start feeling emotional. And this is exactly where the gold is. This is exactly where I'm inviting you, my friend, to ask that why question yet again. Because this is what your mind has been protecting all along. It's built those stories of excuses, of copy-pasting other people, of everything else, and underneath all that, it's that nugget of gold. It's you. Past your conditioning. And this is where you actually realize why you have doubted yourself all along. And usually it's transcendental. It's not something that you have ever considered before. Truth bombs. Right? It's something that you've never considered before. Because previously you are filtering your experience through those thick layers of mind stories. But underneath there is the real you. And underneath you will find the truth that will conquer that self-doubt once and for all.
Wow,
and once you reach that point, there is no going back.
It's really very much
Over
like
to you.
It's really very much like a suit of clothes, a very expensive
Yeah.
suit, and that suit
Yeah.
is in front of you, and that suit is tomorrow or the next day or 3 days from now. But you kind of have to convince yourself that it's a good fit for you. And if you don't convince yourself or believe it's a good fit for you, then you'll never step into the new set of clothing. You'll always be in that old tattered set of rags of that old mindset. So thank you very much, Conrad. And we have Johannes here. I'm going to bring him up on the panel. Give me just a moment here, guys. I'm going to give him his own camera. You can watch me do some things on the fly, and that's so cool. Hey, there is Johannes Geek from Scratch, and we're going to get him up here
Hi.
on the panel of 6. Give me just a minute. Oh, there he is. All right, we got him already. We have two more guests that we're waiting on their arrival. Let me go ahead and get Conrad here. Conrad, there we go. All right. And we have our final guest here. We'll get him up here. Give me just a moment, guys. Oh, no, that's Justin. Let's see what happened here. Let me, where is, I might have messed something up here. I'll have to fix Justin's, I have 7 instead of 6. Let me fix this, Justin. I'm going to put you here. Then I'm going to change your name, my friend, because your name is not Ishka. That is, where'd he go? No, Corey. Oh, there's Corey. Nope, not Corey. Oh, I got to put you up like that. Nothing like, let's see. Why is my, why can't I find him? Let me see if I can add him this way. Okay, I'll fix this for you. All right. Give me just a moment here. We'll get your, by the way, since you're right here, tell the folks what's your handle on X.
My handle on X is at Ishka Bubbles. I know it's dumb, but I didn't think X was actually ever gonna go anywhere. So I just kind of made it as the rest of my old screen names, and somehow it took off, and I just dropped it to Ishka and started telling everybody my real name is Justin.
Yeah. So I did get it right. I don't see. That's what's confusing
No, yeah,
me.
you're
I'm
right.
like you don't look like an Ishka. You don't look like your mother named you Ishka. What do you want to name
She
our
did
newborn
not.
son? We're gonna name him Ishka Bubbles. So here, let me get your camera up here. I think I've got it right there. Hopefully that looks okay. How's the cameras looking, everybody? I've got an overlay on mine, but I don't think that shows on the live. But good to see you here, my friend. We're moving forward in our conversation. I'd like to welcome Geek from Scratch and Ishka Bubbles here. We'll go by their X names, and I'll call out their names along the way. But we're moving into our second hour here with our new panelists, Johannes and Justin, along with Corey, Conrad, and Edison. A wonderful conversation it's been so far. But we were just talking about reframing our subconscious programming, and you're just in time to talk about, Johannes and Justin, some practical strategies to rewire our mindset. And the one strategy I just dropped on the folks is to view that new mindset as a brand new expensive suit of clothes. And you have to be willing to step into it because it's not going to be comfortable. If you're waiting on a new mindset to be comfortable, a healthy relationship, by the way, is never comfortable. I do this every day of the week, relationship therapy, couples therapy, family therapy. People that get comfortable, they start getting an unhealthy relationship. A little bit of discomfort goes a long way. But let's get started out with Johannes sharing something about himself. And I had him as a guest here some time ago. But Johannes, tell us about your content on X, and maybe what might be something that you're working on in your personal life these days.
Yeah, I'm Johannes, Geek from Scratch, and my content mostly is AI-generated art, animated videos, and I try sometimes integrate a little motivational, inspirational quotes or something like that to help people elevate their lives, get more motivation, and yeah, like I lost the word. I had too little coffee today, but. Yeah, try to inspire and be the best version of myself so I hopefully can help somebody else, maybe be a better person too.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We lost Justin. He'll be back here momentarily. But it's so great to have you guys on today. And we were just talking also, Johannes, about how we started out with how just thinking positively, you know, we call it being a Pollyanna, which I've certainly been accused of being a Pollyanna, that just thinking about a thing is not going to make it so. So just thinking positive, oh, everything's going to get better, oh, my relationship's going to improve overnight, oh, I'm going to be a success overnight. How just thinking positively and the thought of overnight success, what have you learned in your life about the long game of success versus just some short term return?
And I would probably say never give up. You start with a thought, and if the thought is right and something you want to go after, then never give up. Because it's when you give up, you lose the hope and you lose the focus and the goals. So the thing I learned kind of the hard way is, even when the days are rough, if you promise yourself to do something, even in the rough days, get up, get dressed, and do the things, because it's gonna feel better afterwards. But it's so easy to give up when the motivation is a little low. Maybe you feel a little off, and it's so easy to postpone. Like, I do it tomorrow, or I do it another day. But tomorrow is also an excellent day to say I do it tomorrow, because why not? I did it yesterday, so I can do it tomorrow too. So the thing I think is the thing I have tried to do, even hard days, is I try to do it anyway, even if I don't like it, if I don't want to do it. At least I give it a try and I do the best I can that day for reach one step closer to my goal and my thoughts and theories. If that
Well,
makes sense.
well, it does make sense. And speaking about trying and trying again, Justin's trying to get back on Ishka Bubbles because he's having some as Scar Hulk from one of my favorite animated TV shows, Hulk and the Agents of Smash. Scar Hulk, the prehistoric Hulk, for you Hulk fans out there, would call it technomolology. He would say stinking technomolology. So our friend Ishka Bubbles is having some technological, yeah, I say that 5 times real fast, technological difficulties. But I'd like to go to Edison for a moment and then over to Corey and to Conrad and talk about this, because Edison, I would say that that was a hard day for you when someone decided they needed your laptop more than you did. But here you are, soldiering forward. Oh, there's Conrad. Let's go to Edison. What do you think, Edison? How do you
Yeah.
how do you keep a healthy mindset when things have a downturn or things go downhill?
Okay, so it's actually, let me just bring this here. So it happened in a night. It happened, yeah, on the road. And surprisingly, that same day I came back, that moment everybody is feeling like, okay, sorry, and everybody was just looking forward to, sympathize with me and just, but they didn't actually see that energy coming from me. I just felt like, okay, it has happened, and I sat myself down and I asked some questions. I asked myself, okay, why did it happen? How did it happen? You understand? Where did it happen? And then I've seen that, okay, this is where it happened, this is how it happened, and this is me trying to, go through the whole process now without bringing in my emotions into the whole thing. Without bringing my emotions into the whole scenario, I'm able to figure out, okay, was this mistake from me? Was there maybe a way I would have been more careful to avoid this thing from happening? What if I took this other route? What if I took this other route? Okay, it was night. So can I now maybe get back to the house earlier than I'm supposed to stay out, and all of those things? So I bring all of those things into consideration, and then I try to see how to move forward from there. And of course, you can't recover those things. It has happened. It has happened. So it's just to condition your mind and think of the next step and think of what to do, because definitely if I wanted to get worried and all of those things, maybe I would probably get depressed, and I of course, work is still going on, and you can't give less, to work because they got your laptop from you. Work demands that you have to stay focused and give it your best. So I just had okay, this is what has happened. It has happened. Let's just focus, and then what other way? How can I reach out to the people I'm working with? And I just found my way around it. It happened, and that was the end. So it's just to move forward, see what you can do, and how to avoid those events, from happening, how to avoid those events from being a barrier, all right, for you to move forward. So that's what I did, just conditioning my mind and making sure that I don't allow that to, affect my emotions. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I find in my work that a lot of people always want to know why something happened. So here's a little bit of neuroscience. Your brain is going to focus on and ruminate on and develop a bigger radar for what you decide has greatest value. As I always say, your feet follow your values. Your feet follow your values. When I say that, I mean brain cells literally beat a path to where you find that there's more value. So here's the thing, is that if your focus is on why something happened, you're not going to come up with solutions for the next step. You can either focus, like Edison said, on the next step, or you can ruminate on why something happened. Why the tornado? Why the fire? Why does someone cheat, or why was someone unfaithful? That's probably the biggest one in my field. People want to know why somebody, did them wrong or fibbed to them or whatever. And that's going to rob you of the great power of creativity because you may never know why. I find that especially people that do others wrong may not know why. That reason that they did a thing may be so deeply subconscious to them that they have no idea why a thing happened. And so focus on not why something happened, but what to do next. Get your mindset action oriented. I'm going to go to Corey real quick. So, Corey, how did you tackle the thing about I've had these strokes, and instead of why did I have them, what can I do next?
Yeah. So, when I turned things around, that was one of the shifts, like, to quit wallowing in why did this happen to me, or, because it just leads to powerlessness. You start feeling powerless to your future, and, you think that you're a victim to the things that happen in your life, and it's just not so. Things are going to happen in life, and we do waste a lot of time wondering why. And so what we have to do is just focus on what do I need to do to improve upon this. If I, more important than why is like, do I want to stay here? No. Well, then this is what I have to do. He could have canceled the day and not made it because his laptop was gone, and he could have whined to everybody on social media and to everybody around him about how this happened to him, and I don't understand why things like this happen to me, and why, what, but it would literally just been a waste of time for him, and there would be nothing productive come out of that. So instead of that, the question is, okay, here's what happened. What do I do next? And so it's just, when you have, well, it's kind of like the cliche thing though. When you have a goal, when you have a thing that you're trying to accomplish, that really starts to take away time for questions like why. You don't have time for that. It's like, here's what happened. Let's pursue. Let's just keep going. I always just point to action. Action answers just so much. So many of our problems can be solved in just taking action on the things that we need to do.
It really is. It really is. There's one word that's going to get you to next, whatever next is, and that is the word next. Okay, this happened, next. That awful, terrible thing happened. Okay, what's next? Somebody asked me my favorite movies, and I couldn't name them the other day, but I do remember one of my favorite books was Who Moved My Cheese? It was a really amazing book back in the 90s. Edison knows what I'm talking about. Who moved my cheese? And so many people just sit around and ruminate on what's it matter who moved your cheese? I mean, unless they're coming back, then you need a cheese security system or something. Have a cheese alert system or something. Put your cheese somewhere else. I once had a guy that he was in both recovery and he was kind of in a halfway house working his way out of it because he'd done some naughty things like steal other people's stuff. And when I say their stuff, I mean their bank account numbers, their passwords, and he had stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I asked him, how do you, at this point in your life, what's your thought process on that? And he was very, very genuine. He said, well, I think you should take better care of your stuff. you know? And so, is it right to steal other people's things? No, but if your cheese is that important to you, the only reason to ruminate on it is what Edison did. You know what might I do better next time? Maybe put away my computer or my cheese, or whatever the case may be. Keep an eye on it. Don't expect everybody else in the world to take care of your stuff for you, take care of your computer for you. And take action. Have an action-oriented mindset. And I love the question that your son mindset, great account.
Can I touch on that, please,
Yeah, go
Doctor?
ahead, yeah.
Well, I tell everybody that I work with, when you start to change to a positive mindset and to start taking action on things that are healthy for you and good for you, one of the first things that you need to do is create a plan for when everything blows up and goes wrong and you just want to quit, because it's going to happen. As soon as things start looking great, it's going to happen. So instead of worrying and focusing on why, especially when it comes to other people, like that, what a waste of time. Because like we're interesting creatures, and we're trying to figure ourselves out. So a lot of times people will wrong you, and in their heart of hearts, they really think that they did what was best for them, or did what was best overall, and they really weren't, trying to be vindictive or harm you in the first place. So like, first off, if you want to go crazy, worry about why people did the things that they did. You can't even figure out why you did what you did, so it's an incredible waste of time to worry about. Absolutely. But one of the things that I tell everybody is to create a plan. Like, so when you start seeing things fall apart and it's not fitting into this window, like I just made these changes and everything's supposed to be good right now and everything's falling apart, just recognize those things and quickly go to your plan. And this is how these are the actions that I'm going to take now to kind of reverse these thoughts in my head and start moving back towards the direction that I want to go. Now, I think it's very, very important to do that. We have to, because when you're in an emotional state, you're not thinking clearly, you're not thinking logically. So one of the best things that you can do for yourself is being able to recognize that and say, okay, here's my predetermined plan. This is what I'm going to do in order to fix this and to take care of myself and do what's best for me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very, very well said. And on that point, let me just say, Justin was trying to get back. He's unable to get back. His internet is kaput. So we're going to have a nice, lovely conversation here for the next little bit, as long as our guest can hang out here. We'll be wrapping up near the top of the hour. But if you have questions, put those in the chat. And case in point, I would have preferred that Ish could be able to make it, but I can't do anything about that. He can't do anything about it either. So you can sit around and ruminate on your circle of concern, but that's going to distract you from your circle of influence. And so every day it's what you can do next. And before I go back to Johannes Geek from Scratch and ask him, how do you tackle some of these hard engineering problems that you deal with, coding problems? You can tell us more about your background. I have one of my favorite things that I found many, many years ago. And if you guys want this, I'll post this in the Mindset Masterclass. Just go over there to the feed, school.com/mindset, school spelled SKOOL, school.com/mindset. But here's a autobiography in 5 short chapters. It's one of my favorite things. Chapter number 1, I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter number 2. By the way, always be looking for the next chapter. Chapter number 2, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I still don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. It isn't my fault. Man, isn't that the refrain of today? Mistakes were made, but not by me. It isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter number 3. I walk down the same street. Yep, yes indeed. Yeah, third time's got to be the charm. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. How many of us have been there? I still see the freaking hole. I fall in anyway. The definition of insanity, right? It's a habit. Well, of course it is. You keep on doing it. Your brain, listen, your brain doesn't care what you do. It will perceive as essential to survival that which you repeat. If you keep on repeating it, the brain's going to perceive that it is essential, important, if not necessary for survival. So it's a habit. It's my fault. Oh, boy. See, now we're in chapter 3, but we're really at step 1. Chapter 3, but we're still at step 1. Sometimes you don't get to step 1 until chapter 37, It's a habit. It's my fault. I know where I am. I get out immediately. You see, a little self-awareness can give you a leg up on almost any situation. Chapter number 4, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter number 5, I walk down a different street. I walk down a different street. It's all about realizing that nothing controls you, nothing has power over you. Yes, your boss has control over your paycheck. Your boss has control over company benefits and policies and work hours, but that does not give your boss control or power over you unless you convince yourself it's so. Henry Ford would say, the Elon Musk of today, Henry Ford, whether you think you can or you think you cannot, you are correct. So in all the challenges that you run into, Johannes, Geek from Scratch, how do you deal with just these hurdles and just keep on getting out of bed next day, and moving forward?
My goals, I would say, because I know where I want to be. I'm start to be a little older. I'm 43. I'm 44 this year. So I start to be a little older. I know where I want to be. I know where I want to go. And if I don't go out and push myself, I'm never gonna reach anywhere. So my motivation is mostly my family and reach the place I want to be. And something I learned, excuse my coughing, I'm a little cold. And something I learned kind of the hard way in the last years, that remove the word but from your vocabulary. Because so many people, like, you wake up in the morning, somebody say, "Hey dude, how are you?" "I'm pretty good, but my head hurts a little." And you straight away you put in a negative word for yourself. You start your day with a negative thought, like, "Yeah, but my head hurts." "Oh yeah, my head hurts a little. Maybe I should take it slow today. And you start doubting yourself. This word, I have tried to eliminate it from my vocabulary as much as possible, and it helped me a lot. I sort of try to think about, but no, I'm not going to use this word, and I try to formulate myself in another way, and it changed my mindset a lot. So I would recommend everybody try for a few days. When you start going to the but my foot hurt, but have a little cold, but take a step back, think about, why do I say this? How can I say this in a positive way? Because basically it doesn't matter if you have a little pain in your foot or if your head hurts a little, you're still gonna go up, you're still gonna be amazing, you're still gonna have a great day. But then you see, but remove that word and it's gonna really change your mindset. I really believe that. So give that a try. It's my biggest recommendation
Absolutely. I
for
love
today.
that. Guys, one of the biggest things I found that gets in the way of success is your big butt. Get your big butt out of the way.
Yes.
Your big butt is getting in the way of your success. And so it's all about trimming down that big butt, maybe in more ways than one. So let's go back to Conrad.
On
Yeah,
your
go ahead, Corey.
well, on your story there, I found it really interesting. Something that empowered me, and maybe it's not good for everybody. I don't know. It's kind of in line with the Stoic philosophy, though, and that is the fact that, like, first off, sometimes it really doesn't matter who's at fault. And the most empowering thing that you can do is just like, you don't have to care about every detail, right? So, like, oftentimes I don't care about who's at fault in a situation when something goes wrong. What I'm more interested in figuring out is what can I be responsible for, and what can I do that? Yeah, because when you can take responsibility for failure, even if somebody sabotaged you and you had nothing to do with it, if you can find somewhere to take responsibility, all of a sudden you can gain control of that situation. You can gain control of your mindset. You can start looking for solutions instead of being focused on the problems and the powerlessness that comes from victimhood of figuring out who's at fault. And, whose fault is this? Whose fault? This is your fault. Who's right? Who's wrong? Sometimes it just doesn't matter. Sometimes what really matters is what can I do about this? How can I be responsible? And how can I move forward in a productive way?
It really is. One of my favorite shows is Everyone Loves Raymond. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's just hilarious. But there's an episode and a scene where Raymond is there with his parents. And let me tell you, man, these parents are screwed up, man. They are just hilariously screwed up. And so Raymond says, all these years, I thought it was me. But it's you. It's you. And so there are cultures in our world, my friends, that part of the solution does not include fault finding. The solution does not include, well, first of all, wait, before we go any farther, let's solve this right away. Justin at Iska Bubbles couldn't get on because it's Johannes's fault. I just want to make it known, Well, what good does that do? He's not going to get on anyway, In relationships, it is such a misdirection and a low value pursuit to start pointing fingers. And I like to ask people, well, who, that's judgmental, okay, assigning fault. It's misdirectional because it's not in a solution-focused direction. And by the way, who died and made you God? Who died and made me God? It's not up to me to decide whose fault. Let's get into a solution-focused mindset. And again, there are cultures that when the milk is spilled, they do not focus on who spilled the milk. They focus on how can we cooperate and clean up the milk. How do we cooperate and clean up the milk instead of pointing fingers? The least important finger on your hand is that one, unless you're pointing it this way. And so I want to go to Conrad. He's been quiet here, and see what his take on this stuff is.
Well, thank you so much. I've really started to think about one of my favorite mantras, meaning that everything happens for a reason and my benefit. And this is something that I lived by for, nearly, over 4.5 decades. And the more I think about it, the more I apply it. Everything happens for a reason and my benefit. Therefore, even those things that do not go seemingly according to plan must be for my benefit too. And how cool is that? It literally instantly wipes away any fault finding, finger pointing and anything like this. Because I already know that it's all happening for my benefit anyway. So why would I spend my precious lifetime pointing fingers at other people who are literally just my mirrors? They are showing me something very precious. If it's all happening for me, perhaps I'm even self-manifesting this experience myself for my own benefit of my own growth. And if this is the case, then how can I quickly turn the situation around? Why is it happening for me? But in this case, it's a very healthy why. What can I learn from it? How quickly? How quickly can I make that right step? And the more I focus on that, the more I redirect that, energy of, seeking whom to blame and so on and so forth towards some meaningful action that Corey was talking about. And it's a healthier place, so to speak. Yes, there is time for assessment later on. When things are done, perhaps we can sit down and think, okay, why has it happened? How can we avoid it in the future? Yes, there is a time for that, right? Let's be practical here. Yes, of course. And at the same time, these days especially, I tend to thank people who cause problems in my life, right? Because I know it's happening for me. I'm self-manifesting those experiences somehow. I need to experience this very specific thing. Out of billions upon billions of opportunities for growth, I am manifesting something super specific in my life. Every second, my friends, for you is so super specific. You could be in any country at this time, any neighborhood, with any friends, any family at all, and yet you are where you are. Exactly, precisely, down to this very moment on this call. How cool is that, that you've manifested all this? Somehow you needed this experience, and you need this experience also. And with this level of thinking, with everything that happened, every second was pre-sent. We have literally, in our lifetimes, pre-sent every second. Then not only does it indicate that we have immense creative power, we can create anything we want, so to speak, because we can pre-send it. We can pre-send it, and it will become our future at some point, depending on the level of our pre-sending skill. This is where the game really gets good. The game we call life. Okay, this is where it really becomes juicy and, exciting. Because it's meant to be. And in this case, what I tend to do, for example, especially these days, is to say to somebody, even in my thoughts, this is not your fault. You are without fault, my dear friend. You are without fault. I say to that person, or to even that experience, to clear the energy, to stop the finger pointing, even on a subconscious level, right? To counter that even subconscious finger pointing, I already express it, say it. I choose to say, you are without fault. To cut off that cord, so to speak. And because I do so, it's an act of release, forgiveness, acceptance. You choose your language, my friends. But with that kind of mindset, I free myself from the past. The past doesn't hold power over me. And with this mindset again, I can make that better choice. Now, I'm in a clear head. If the past doesn't define me, and as an ultimate creator of my personal reality, meaning personality, if I am the ultimate creator of my personality, then what am I going to do next? What is the very best action with my current level of awareness that I can take right here, right now, to present the most beneficial future? And as it turns out, once I do not dwell over the past, because I've already released it by saying, you are without fault, then I can make that really clear mind decision. Okay, the best I can do at this time about whatever has happened is XYZ. Now, can I make it even better? Can I level up my initial response? Can I? If I can, great. Now, can I level up that next level up response? Is it practicable? Is it practical? Is it doable? Is it worth it? If it is, I'm going to go for the level 2 of my response or level 3 of my response. And that already is set to bring me that most aware response to a given situation. Because I'm making it right here, right now, without that finger pointing or any kind of blame game going on in the background. And instead, with that intention of purity, that intention of success, intention of love, of joy, satisfaction. This is where one tends to get the very best outcomes, also because that initial intention is already very pure. And it works like magic. Rather than going from fear and blame and scarcity and all those other states, I'm choosing to start my response with love, with joy, with success, with satisfaction, with the very best outcome in mind. And because I do so, and because I am in that energy, by the very design of it, I lace the entire experience of what follows with success, with love, with joy, with satisfaction. And it just happens because I'm presenting that energy to myself so that later on I can collect it. That's how powerful we are. And how cool is that?
Very cool, very cool. How powerful we are, how powerful we are. And that really all does begin with mindset. I love what Military Blood 1 said, pure motives. And it also said when we focus on the pains, we're blinded from the opportunity that awaits us. And I always like to point out that presence of discomfort is not presence of danger. You can be uncomfortable and not be in danger, but you can be very comfortable and be in great danger. So it really starts out with that whole in the 5-chapter biography. And I'm going to just read you something that I was reading this morning. And then I'd like to go to one of you guys, Johannes or Corey or Edison, your thoughts on what Conrad had to say. But see if you can recognize who this guy is. I've been reading, I do this every morning, by the way. Daily Strength for Men. I recommend having some type of devotional, doing some type of journaling, doing some type of mindfulness, just to get that noggin set in the right direction. That's why we do Monday Mindset Mojo, to get you guys fueled up with some high-octane mindset tips, tricks, and techniques for the week. But see if you can guess who this guy was. He was purchased by a nobleman who was captain of the military at the time. He then did such a great job at that he was made overseer of that captain's house. But then guess what? He was falsely accused by a family member of that captain's house. But then when he went to prison, he did such a great job as a prisoner that he was put in charge of all the other prisoners. Then he became a bit of an advisor to some really, really noble people in the prison. And once they were supposed to give him a shout out when they were released from prison, but they forgot about him. So he lingered in prison another couple years. And then 2 years later, the ruler of that kingdom needed an advisor. And one of the chefs, so to speak, said, hey, there's a guy 2 years ago. Crap, I forgot all about that guy. But he gave me some great advising. And so then he became an advisor to the king. And he told the king, you need to start preparing and getting ready, because you're going to have a lot of wealthy, prosperous years, but then you're going to have some really lean years. Don't wait for your lean years to get ready. Like a squirrel in the woods, you need to store up food for the winter. The king did that. He had such abundance in the country that this young man's family, who, by the way, had thrown him in a hole. I'll tell you what the story is. You can go back and read it. One of my favorite stories of all times. Threw him in a hole. So he was in that hole that we talked about earlier. So your success doesn't start as a top advisor to the king. Your success starts when you're in that deep, dark hole. It may not be your fault. You didn't put yourself there. It may not be your responsibility for being there, but it is your responsibility how you respond to it. And so Joseph, who is the favored child of his father, who all of his brothers were jealous of and threw him in that hole, he used his position not for vengeance. You see, so many people today, they'll get out of the hole, they'll become prosperous, but then they use that position to try to pay people back and to, exact their get their pound of flesh, their Shakespearean pound of flesh, exact vengeance. Joseph didn't do that because he said something that all of you guys have alluded to, our wonderful esteemed panel for the day. He said, you might have meant it to me for evil, but God meant it to me, and I'm going to use it for good. I'm going to use it for good. And so all of those things that happen to you that you never wanted, realize that you would be somebody today, but you wouldn't be the person that you are. If Corey didn't use those strokes for good, he'd be somebody, but he wouldn't be the Corey we know. Conrad, Edison, Johannes wouldn't be the men that we know them to be today. So I would say if you offered me, I don't know, a pill or a magic wand to undo all the horrible things that have happened in my life, I would say, no thanks, no thanks, because they've made me who I am. And I think one of the arts of life, and it's not narcissistic to think this, but to really express pride in who you've become. Because haven't you worked at it? Hasn't it come at great cost with, biblically we would call it weeping, wailing, gnashing of teeth? And why would you give that up? Why would you give that? I know in the moment you might choose for it not to happen, but see, it's in that moment you can accept that it's happening. And instead of trying to figure out why, ask yourself, but what will I do with it? What is the possible benefit of this in the future? Because as Conrad would say, my future is being sent to me in the present. And this is it. The future's here in this present moment of struggle. It's my job to embrace it. So guys, we're going to finish up here in about the next 8 or 10 minutes. And so if you have questions, drop them in the chat. I love the chat that's going on. I pull those on the screen. Do drop your perspectives, but also your questions. You can grab the recording of this if you didn't get to see all of it over on Mindset Masterclass school.com/mindset, SKOOL.com/mindset. And at the end of here in about 8 minutes, I'm going to ask these guys each to tell us, what's your best mindset hack? What's your best mindset hack? And then we'll wrap it up, and we'll be back as we are every Monday for Mindset Monday Mojo. And I just thank you guys for being here. But let's go to Edison. We haven't heard from Edison, and then we'll hop up there to Johannes and Corey about how are you reframing your subconscious programming? Maybe a way that you do that, a way that you get started doing that every single morning. What do you think, Edison? How do you get up ready to go, putting one foot in front of the other?
Yeah. All right. So first of all, here is the thing. One of the things I look at first is self-forgiveness. This whole thing, it's okay to say, okay, you move on from your past and all of those things. But then I ask this question, how do I forgive myself from, the things, the mistakes I made in the past, and the things I wasn't able to do, and all of that. And then one of the things I do is positive affirmations. You understand? I have them on my phone. So every time I open, read, sometimes every morning, sometimes before I go to bed. Sometimes I just open them just to keep reminding myself, okay, this is where you are going, this is who you are, this is what you want to achieve. Just basically, saying those words of affirmation, like over time, I make sure that, like, I make it a constant reminder to remind myself, okay, Edison, this is what you want to achieve, this is where you want to be. You understand? So that is actually what keeps me going, despite the events happening around me. I just positive affirmations, and that's it.
Man, that is amazing. That you over time, your brain is going to believe what you tell it. Corey brought it up earlier about not fibbing to yourself, not lying to yourself. Your brain's going to believe that stuff also. Your brain is also going to pay attention to when you keep your word to yourself. And so when you promise yourself something and you don't do it, your brain really does keep track of that. But let's go to Johannes. Johannes, how do you get out of bed every morning, making sure that you put mentally that best foot forward?
My best advice is I wrote it down so I remember what to what to say. But my best approach is detach from the outcome and focus more on the process. So what I mean with that is like when you obsess over the result, money, follower, weight loss, success, you create a pressure or a frustration for yourself and even self doubt sometimes, imposter syndromes, and these kind of things. But when you focus on the daily actions, skills, and improvements, you build a more natural momentum in your life, and it's gonna be easier for you to reach the goals you have set up for yourselves. So if you show up every day and improve 1%, it's better than not show up and improve nothing. So even the small steps is a step closer to your goal.
That is every day you're a step closer to your goal, and stop focusing on outcome and focus on the next step. And I'm the same way.
Yes.
I tell myself I'm not really in charge of the outcome as much as I'm in charge of the very next step, the
Yeah.
process. And
It's the
so
only
it's
thing we can have control over is what happens next.
absolutely. Absolutely. And so let's go to Corey, and then we'll go to Conrad for his, healthy mindset steps he takes in the morning, and then I'll kind of round it out, and we'll go back around for some parting comments. If you guys have questions for our panel, put that in the chat down there. I'll put it right back on screen. It's really great to see my dear friend Sherry here. She has a wonderful Tuesday, Thursday space. That's an audio discussion on X called the Ladies Locker Room. And guess what? Men are welcome because you have ladies in your life. Man, hop in there, see how they think. The door is open. And it's good to see Love here today. Thank you so much. I love seeing you in the spaces. We're going to have a space today that I'll do at here in about 2 hours and 12 minutes called Adults Behaving Badly. My good friend Sega Link on X, he dropped that video of that kerfuffle on the airplane where two kindergartners who really look like they're dressed up as adults, but they're really behaving like kindergartners are going after each other because somebody bumped into somebody's seat. I'm like, man, if you guys were around back in my day, somebody would turn you over their knee and give you a spanking or something. But yeah, Corey, go ahead, and then we'll go to Conrad.
Yeah, yeah. So, there's a few things. We can always look back at the things that's happened to us in our life, but there's two different ways to look at it. Like you kind of talked about it before. I wouldn't do it any different way. One thing all the hard things in our life are able to teach us is that we're hard to kill. We're survivors by nature. We know how to adapt and overcome things, and you can draw strength from all these hard things in your life. And if you do that, you'll start to decide, hey, you know what? I wouldn't change that. I don't think I would change the things that ever happened to me that was what you might call tragic, because they literally made me into who I am now. Now I'm somebody who has confidence. I know I'm hard to kill. I know that I can adapt and overcome and achieve things, and I believe it's really important to know about yourself. Something that that I believe is very, very important is when we do things that are good for us, we start to develop a self-respect and an appreciation for ourselves, and our own personal value goes up. And so anytime that you can enlist some habits that will bring you up in life and empower you and do better for you, you're going to start to value yourself more. You're going to get more confidence. You're going to, you're going to be proud that you're taking care of yourself, and it's going to make you want to do other things to take care of yourself. So some of the things that I do to set my day straight, I've been doing these things for 17 years. First thing I do in the morning is I open my Bible app. I read a devotional. I read a little bit out of the Bible. Then I open the Daily Stoic. It's a book, great book. I recommend. A lot of my followers have bought it and really love it. I do a post every morning, almost every morning about it. But anyways, I read today's thing out of the Daily Stoic. I've been reading that over and over for 4 or 5 years, and then I go straight into my journaling and I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. Like I mentioned before, the next part of my journaling is I sow some good seeds for other people. I lift somebody else up in prayer. So they may not know me. Many of my followers on X, I prayed over. They have no clue, but there's something about that well wishing and hoping and sincerely, genuinely wanting better for other people. I think that it does something to us on the inside. I think it makes us more available and open to receiving the same ourselves. Then I write down 3 things that my top 3 goals. That's the next section of my journaling of a morning. I just write down my top 3 goals that I'm going for right now. And then right below that, I write down what I'm expecting for this day. Today I'm expecting another client, or I'm expecting this phone call to go well. I'm expecting this thing to happen, sometimes I would write down things that I have absolutely no logical reason for anticipating and expecting in the day, and it happens. And so there's a lot of power in setting those things up for ourselves. Some other things that I do, and I mix in with that, is I hydrate first thing in the morning, drink some water. I try to do, I have a goal to be able to do 80 push-ups in one set at 80 years old. So every morning I do my age in push-ups, and I'm just going to keep building up to that. So I do 44 push-ups every morning when I wake up. And all of this stuff sounds really, really simple and silly. But every time that I do something that's good for myself, it motivates me to do more good for myself. It tells me that I'm the type of person that takes care of myself, that I care for myself, and it enables me to care for others, and it enables me to accomplish things that may have been difficult or out of my reach before. So like everything I say always goes back to taking action. Practical actions, stacking habits, doing things that's good for you it's just very, very important. And when you're doing those things, you start to think about yourself different. You start to see the world different. For 17 years, starting my day writing down 3 things that I'm grateful for. I can assure you that the world looks completely different to me than it did 17 years ago. I notice completely different things. I might miss all negative things that are going on and focus on this one. When everybody else, have you ever been somewhere and you go to a restaurant, you sit down and eat, you have a great experience, but the person that you're with has a terrible experience? Like, that's my life. I feel like all these people are going through life and they're noticing all the negative, and those things don't even touch me. I'm seeing the good in the world, and I'm more motivated to create more good, and I just believe it's all based on the habits and the things that I'm taking action on every day. And that's pretty simple. We can all do things. We can all take action. We just have to start, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It's by the grace of God alone that I started writing down 3 things that I was grateful for. I had no clue to do that. All I knew is I could recite every bad thing that was going on in my life, and I knew that I needed to change that. So I just turned to 180, started focusing on everything that was good in my life. And that is hands down the most empowering thing that I've ever done. But it is my philosophy that the more things that you can do to take care of yourself, the better your quality of life is going to be, because the better you're going to feel about who you are.
Man, that's amazing. And I want you guys to notice the biceps on this guy recovering from a series of strokes. He's got that vascularity popping out there, and this is all from getting up and taking the next step and the next step and the next one, So what a really, really inspiring story. Conrad, if you would take just a couple minutes, we got to wrap it up here in just a couple minutes. So share how do you, kind of hit the ground running, at least with a healthy mindset every morning?
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Well, what I believe in is that, in order to have a really good day, it's helpful to have a really good morning. In order to have a really good morning, it's helpful to have a really good evening before. Therefore, I'm a great proponent in winning the evening before a really good day. So that good, healthy, sustainable evening routine sets us for the next day. We will sleep in a different way, let's say. Our subconsciousness will be working differently if we are relaxed, yet focused, loving, and grateful than if we are stressed, worrying, feel with doubt and other states. Therefore, if we set our evening before really well, and it can be tailored to a person, really can, and it should actually, then we vastly increase our chances of waking up feeling refreshed, feeling well, and that already gives us a head start on the day. What I also tend to do is I tend to out loud express my gratitude. But for, let's say for my own life, for my own health, for the level of success, but I also do it for my family. I'm so thankful that my family is so healthy and happy, successful and fulfilled, prosperous and joyous. And I keep doing that. And then I do the same for the neighbors, for example. I do the same for the friends. I do the same for my clients. I do the same for the world. How wonderful that the world is getting more and more loving and joyous and successful and prosperous. How wonderful is that I am experiencing it. And because I set myself for it, I'm truly beginning to experiencing all of those states, that healthy, loving, happy family, that increasing level of love, joy, peace, success, prosperity in the social environment. I'm already grateful for it, therefore it already exists, and I am just literally recalling it, so to speak. I am presending it, thanking for it already. And because I am the master of my own personal reality, I am the person doing the perception. I am the person doing the perceiving. Whatever it is that I wish to perceive, I can then experience it. And this is exactly what I do last thing at night and first thing in the morning. Because that also primes my decision-making process for the day. Then I make those higher choices, I take those better options, and I take those more empowering actions, right? Just like Corey was talking about, a moment ago. Because I have that intention of experiencing the very best for everybody. And I mean, well beyond myself. My intention is for everybody to have the best experience ever. And because I start with that, I think like that, I holographically care about everybody. Therefore, it is my wish and my intention so that everybody experiences that fullest life they can. Hence also the choice, of my name, right? That handle on X, More Life Wizard, because I'm so passionate about people having that fullest life they can.
Life.
That life supreme. Because it can be had. It's just a matter of focusing your perspective.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Heath.
Yeah, it's like a lens, dial it in, dial it in. And I'd like to invite everybody over. I put it up there in the chat and on the screen. Mindset Masterclass. It looks just like that. See, we're live right now in Mindset Masterclass. All you guys out there watching the feed, please join us. We've got over 500 people in our audience today. I very much appreciate your time. And you guys, I want to do just a quick lightning round, maybe just 60 seconds, literally. If you'll take maybe 5 seconds, literally just 5 seconds, and just share a parting affirmation with everybody here today. A parting affirmation here today. And Love is giving everybody a hand. Thank you so much. But what would you say, just a quick, maybe 3 to 5 second parting affirmation? And then I'll wrap up with mine. Mine is kind of neuroscience-y, but who wants to go first? Conrad, take it away, my friend.
3 5 seconds.
You seem to be a very empathic guy.
I would start with all is well.
All is well. Fantastic. Edison. Or whoever's next. Who wants to go next? You got one ready to go?
Yeah, life is happening for you, not to you.
Oh, I love
If
it.
you-
I love it. Johannes or Edison?
I would say be yourself. Everybody is already occupied, so the best version you can
I
be is
love
yourself.
that. I love that. Last but not least,
Never give
Edison.
up. Never give up. Keep pushing.
Never, never, never give up. And remember, and this is something I've said for many, many years, we first, capital FIRST, we first engineer our thoughts, then our thoughts engineer our lives. We first engineer our thoughts, and then our thoughts engineer our lives. Guys, thank you so much for being here. We're back every Monday morning for Monday Mindset Mojo, and look forward to seeing you guys over in the Mindset Masterclass. I have a space every day of the week, Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock Elvis Presley time. That's EPT, otherwise known as Memphis, Chicago time. But that's called Midday Mindset. It's only 55 minutes, so it's audio only. And then on Friday, I have an 18-minute interview, Fridays at 9 a.m. Central Time, Memphis, Chicago time, for Executive Espresso. As I say, it's only 18 minutes. If we can ever serve you in any way, reach out to any one of us. If you have questions about Mindset Masterclass, just reach out to me. Also, free lifetime memberships going right now, so hop over there, join in the deeper conversation. We're digging deep. We're learning from each other. Thanks again, guys, for being here. All my panelists, Johannes, Corey, Edison, and Conrad. You are absolutely fabulous. And we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye now.
See ya.